Liberty Mutual Insurance customizes car insurance so you only pay for what you need. You know what? Honestly, that's all we really want. Fairness. We want it in sports, we want it in life, to all be treated fairly. And what's more fair than having you only pay for what you need? Way to go, Liberty Mutual. This message was brought to you by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company. Visit libertymutual.com to learn more.
Hands off to Jonathan Taylor. Huge hole. He's at the 30. He's going to go. 10, 5, touchdown. Jonathan Taylor made a man miss the line of scrimmage and then runs it into Pater. And a one-handed INT. Are you kidding me? Kenny Moore.
What a play by Nyheim Hines.
Horseshoe is back, baby. The horseshoe is back.
What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Bring the Juice Colts podcast. Cody Felger here from the Indianapolis Star, joining me, very special guest, Mr. Jim Aiello himself. Jim, it's been a crazy couple of weeks with training camp, man. How have you been? How have you been enjoying it, man? It's probably nice to be back there after a year of nobody really being able to be there. How's it been for you?
Yeah, it's been awesome to get back to a little bit of normal life with training camp, but it's been hectic. I think as Colts fans know, it started off with Chris Ballard telling us that Frank Reich had COVID and would be away from the team, and then the one injury after another. Colts fans don't really need to tell you, but it's Carson Wentz, it's Ryan Kelly, it's Quentin Nelson. There's been, Darius Leonard still hasn't practiced yet, so plenty of news, plenty of things going on, which I guess in this part of the year you don't really want that, but as somebody in my position, I guess it's not the worst thing to have things to write about. And, I'm sitting in Canton, Ohio, waiting for the Hall of Fame inductions for Edgerrin James and Peyton Manning. So, yeah, lots going on in Colts world right now.
Absolutely, man. And you mentioned it, Carson Wentz going out with that injury, and we don't really know the official timetable. The Colts kind of gave one, but it's very broad, 5 to 12 weeks. So in the meantime, Jacob Eason's been taking really all the run at quarterback number one with the Colts starting offense. But, the Colts offense has been kind of hot and cold, I feel like, from what we've seen and what the media has reported. But I think that kind of poses the question, Jim, and the topic of today's conversation. Okay, what's wrong with the Colts offense, quote unquote? Is it, days of struggling? Is it just figuring out some of the kinks? Is it the Colts defense maybe having their way with them a little bit? Or is it a combination of both? Is it kind of in the middle? So I guess we can start with Jacob Eason. He's had some really, really good days, Jim. He's had some days that maybe aren't as great for what you want to see, but what have you seen from Jacob Eason in the couple weeks you've seen him be the starting quarterback?
Yeah, so let me lay out the foundation here on Jacob Eason. This is effectively a rookie training camp for him. I know that's not right because he was drafted in 2020 and he had last year's shortened training camp, but the guy barely got any snaps. They were trying to get Phillip Rivers, acclimated with the offense. Jacoby Brissett was the backup, so he didn't get a lot of work. He's already gotten, I think, almost triple the work in terms of throws and team drills this year than he did last year. And that was a couple weeks of camp that he had, and we're not even through 2 weeks right now. So that tells you how little work he got in. During practice last year, he barely played. Again, he was the third-string quarterback. Jacoby ran the scout team. So, almost all his work he got in was mental reps and some stuff on the field after practice or even before games or things like that. So, again, you're talking about a guy, the Colts were very clear. They said, we don't know about Jacob Eason. When we asked Chris Ballard in the offseason, said, can this guy even be the backup for your team? He said, I don't know. We need to see more. So what we're seeing is essentially a rookie. He had the redshirt year this year. He's kind of going through a rookie year now. There are going to be a lot of bumps. I think that's the thing people need to understand, and I want to reiterate, is if he came out guns blazing and ripping apart this defense, which is filled with veterans and really good players up and down, that would have been the more surprising thing than what we've seen so far, which is him struggling. He's a fourth-round quarterback. He's going to struggle. Some of the things that he didn't do well in college we're seeing right now. You look at him. He's a first-round body type. He's got a first-round arm, rocket for a right arm. But the reason he went in the fourth round is because he isn't a great processor, because he isn't the most accurate quarterback. Those are things that can get better in the NFL, and he's working on them, but they're not going to be all of a sudden fixed in 2 weeks. So,
Liberty Mutual Insurance customizes car insurance so you only pay for what you need. You know what? Honestly, that's all we really want, fairness. We want it in sports, we want it in life. That's why all sports we love have rules. That's why we have offsides, so players don't float down the field or the ice and get cheap breakaways. That's why there are foul poles, sidelines, and out of bounds. In sports, the goal of fairness is built right in. Life doesn't work that way, as we all know, but Liberty Mutual is trying to make insurance work that way. That's what only paying for what you need is all about. And when you do that, you can also save a lot of money. So switch and save when you customize your car and home insurance with Liberty Mutual and only pay for what you need. What's more fair than that? Way to go, Liberty Mutual. This message was brought to you by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company. Visit libertymutual.com to learn more.
He has been slow to process. He has been a little bit inaccurate, even on his completions. He's not leading guys upfield as much as you'd like to see. He's not protecting his receivers when they're going over the middle. These are the things that he needs to work on, things he can get better at. But we're 2 weeks into this so far. He needs to be given time to see if he can develop into that backup quarterback. I'm not saying he's going to for sure, but he needs more time, and there are going to be bumps in the road. So like you said, he's had his good moments. I think he's had more bad moments so far. But again, I think that's to be expected, especially going up, and this is the other part of your question, against a really good defense. This is a Colts defense that was already really good last year and added some significant pieces. The edge rushers, the young guys, look really good right now. We know about the middle of the defense, how good they can be. So, again, I think if you looked at the way this is breaking down in camp so far, offense versus defense, with effectively a rookie quarterback leading the way, this is what you'd expect.
Mm-hmm. Oh, exactly. And also he has 3 of his, quote unquote starters out on the offensive line. If you throw in Eric Fisher with that, with Quentin Nelson and Ryan Kelly going out. So it's kind of like not really that surprising. Like you said, it shouldn't be that surprising to people. And I'm not really shocked by that. And one thing that you mentioned about the, being a slower processor, and they've said as much, right, compared to even Sam Ehlinger, I don't think that should come as a shock either, because Jacob Eason really didn't see that much time in college either. He's still very fresh and very young into his football career.
Absolutely. I mean, I think this is a guy, I think a colleague of mine said this is like the first season he's had in 4 years. Or he's had 1 season in 4 years because of the injury he had, the transfer year, and then the fact that he didn't play last year. I mean, he really hasn't seen like high-speed defense in a while, and he's never seen first-team defense. I mean, he's going up against the first-team Colts defense. This is the first time he's seen first-team defenders in the NFL in his career. So, again, like you said, the processing was something that was always going to be an issue. If you look at him and you look at the arm that he has, and if he was a great processor, this is the guy that would have gone in the first round. That's just the way it is. He was going to have warts, and the Colts drafted him because, hey, he's got all these tools. Can we smooth out some of the warts? Can we turn him into a better quarterback? And again, most of the time when you draft a quarterback in the 4th round, your hope isn't that he becomes a starter. Your hope is that he becomes a reliable backup. That's what a 4th round quarterback generally becomes. The Dak Prescotts of the world are very, very, very rare. So, I mean, that's what the Colts are hoping he would be. And they thought they were going to have time. They thought, hey, we have Carson Wentz here. Here's the starter. We're going to give Jacob Eason a lot of work in training camp and then during the preseason. And if he proves himself, he can be our backup. If not, we might have to go get a veteran that we feel better about. Now, with the Carson Wentz timeline being so, big, so wide, 5 to 12 weeks, hey, if he misses half the season, is Jacob Eason ready to lead this team to wins in the regular season? Well, that's speeding up the timeline in the process. I think the Colts weren't hoping for that. They wanted to be able to give him time without as much pressure, saying, let's develop you into a backup quarterback, not the guy that might have to lead us into week 1, week 2, week 3. So it's a little bit different right now. It does call into question whether or not maybe they should have brought in another veteran just in case Jacob Eason didn't develop in the way that they'd hoped. But again, we're still early in this. This is still a couple weeks into the process of Jacob Eason's development. Got to give him time. Got to see what he does against Carolina.
Yeah, I think that'll be a bigger test for me this next week when they do have Carolina and they play him in the preseason. Okay, maybe not as good of a defense as he's seen with the Colts defense. Does that mean he's looking a lot better, against maybe this Carolina defense? And I'm really intrigued to see that. But I think another thing that, going back to the offensive line, it seems like Sam Tevi and Will Holden, the left tackles there, have kind of been struggling a little bit. So it seems like there's always been consistent pressure in his face. And we know, Jim, how much he struggled even in college when he was facing the pressure. What have you seen from him in that department? hmm I guess maybe some encouraging things is it seems like there's been progress with Jacob Eason, right? Marcus Brady has said as much. He feels like he's getting a little bit better in his progressions. And it seems like, yeah, there may be days where it's a little bit rough, but it seems like, Jim, that it's trending in the right direction for Jacob Eason, according to the Indianapolis Colts coaches and the coordinators and people like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll caution against. I don't think they're going to say he's taking steps backward either. If that were true,
Right.
or if he's stagnant in his progress, I don't think they would say that either. Honestly, I think they're going to be positive. They're going to try to give him as much positive reinforcement and encouragement as they can. So I'm not saying that isn't true. I just would warn against reading too much into what the coaches are saying. I think he has gotten a little bit better at progressing from first read or the second read to a check down. I saw a touchdown pass he threw the other day where he looked one way, didn't see it, looked back over the middle, and threw a nice crossing route. I think it was to Zach Pascal. So he has, again, it's not like it's all been bad moments. He has had some very good moments where he's understanding the defense. The thing they're trying to get him to do, and the thing they're working on most with him, and this is happening mostly after practice when they're going through film, is pre-snap recognition. What is he seeing from the defense when he walks up to the line of scrimmage? What is he seeing? And so those are the things that he has to get better at. They're going to help him. They have some great coaches to help him do that. Frank Reich, again, has worked with some of the masters in terms of pre-snap recognition in Peyton Manning and Phillip Rivers. I would call them two of the top, 3 or 4 greatest in the last 20 years at just being able to identify what a defense wants to do at the line of scrimmage. So they know how to teach these kind of things. And Jacob Eason is a willing learner. I mean, that's the one thing that we did find out about him last year was that he is willing to stay after practice. He is willing to ask questions. Or he's willing to shut his mouth and listen when 2 veteran, smart quarterbacks, Phillip Rivers and Jacoby Brissett, are talking, and he can take his notes and listen and then ask questions to Marcus Brady later. I mean, he is a guy that wants to be a good quarterback. That's a huge step. He's willing to put in the work. I know that seems like it should be a given. It's not in the NFL. Not all guys are willing to put in that time and effort. Jacob Eason seems like the kind of guy who is.
Which is definitely great to see. I mean, I know obviously they were kind of, whatever. There's a lot of weird pre-draft stuff, but I think that was maybe potentially a knock against Eason was like, does he have the passion? Does he have the drive? Does he love the game? Things like that. Obviously, that's not a concern for Indianapolis. Doesn't appear to be, which is definitely great news. But we talked about the defense just a little bit. I wanted to kind of segue back into that. How much credit do you give this Indianapolis Colts defense for doing what they've done so far in camp? In your opinion, how good has this team looked on defense so far?
Well, if I was judging the Colts defense based on training camp, I'd say they have a chance to be like a top 3 defense in the NFL this year. I mean, they have looked that good. But even Matt Eberflus has said, we haven't had pads on very much. The offensive line is much better with pads. And, they have a chance to engage a little quicker. They're a little more confident in what they're doing. And so that has been the reason they won so often early in camp is because there were no pads. Now we have pads on. The defense is still playing very well. But again, I hate to stress the same things. They're going up against the backup quarterback, a 6th-round rookie quarterback. A lot of it was Jalen Morton, who has now been cut, but it was, an undrafted free agent, and Brett Hundley. So the quarterback competition they're facing isn't great right now. I would wager to say that almost every quarterback situation they're going to face during the regular season is better than what they're seeing right now. The other thing I would say is, we talked about again, the offensive line is very banged up. They're not facing starting offensive linemen, so it's really hard to get a read on how good this Colts defense is. That said, I mean, they've been really good. You don't want to take away credit from them. Kamoko Toure looks, you got to be encouraged by the way Kamoko Toure looks because a lot of people were wondering if that injury was going to, throw him off for the rest of his career. Ben Banigou is a guy that is on the bubble in terms of making this roster. He's looked really good, so you have to be encouraged by that. Tyquan Lewis has looked really good. So you don't want to knock these guys and take away from what they've done, but you do have to look at the competition and say, okay, who are they doing it against? What is the offense trying to accomplish while the defense is getting after them? These are the questions you have to ask. This is why you don't want to read too much into what you're seeing in training camp. But like I said, they've done everything you want to see a defense do that has the goals of being elite, of taking the ball away 40 times, which is what they keep saying. They've shown all the capabilities now. So that's the first step, I guess. So you wonder how much it will transfer when you play against real competition. But again, I guess you want to see what they've done, and they're proving right now they look really, really good.
That's definitely like you mentioned. Yeah, it's early in camp. There's a lot of things that can happen from then to now, but it's certainly encouraging, especially in the pass rush department. It seems like some of these young guys are really starting to get some pressure on the quarterback. Now, again, that's against Sam Tevy and Will Holden and Chris Reed and people like that who. Let's be honest, it's a downgrade, a major downgrade from the guys that the Colts have normally in there. So that's definitely interesting. But really appreciate you coming on, Jim, giving your insight on this situation, on this topic. It's always a fun one. Really appreciate you, man.
What's the worst thing about selling your home? Probably all the times you'll have to scramble for a last-minute showing and somehow clean the dishes, pick up your kids' toys, make all the beds, and get out of the house in an hour. Sounds exhausting. That's not the case when you buy and sell a home with Orchard. They'll help you buy and move into your new place first, and then Orchard will take care of all the showings on your old house. That's right. You're already in your new house. No crazy last-minute scrambling. Take a look and see how Orchard can help you at Orchard.com and get started with a no-cost, no-obligation offer. That's Orchard.com.